Yeah.
All right. All right. That's nice. Since you can hear me, so let's get started. So today we'll be doing an introduction to HTML, to the HTML DOM. This is the ninth week for the Web 2 track. Well, I've been doing this for 8 weeks currently, and this is the ninth week. So we're doing an introduction to the HTML DOM, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So let's dive in. So the way we're doing it is, well, first, this is the outline. So we'll define what the DOM is, basic concepts of the DOM. Then we'll go to how to select elements in the DOM, right? Doing using things like document.get element by ID. Then we'll also talk about how to transverse and move around the DOM, right? Then how to manipulate elements in the DOM, right? So apart from just us just selecting it and moving around the DOM, we have to also manipulate those elements, right? Then we also do and talk about event handling in the DOM. All right, so we're going to do these five things. So let's get started with the definition of what the DOM is. So the document object model refers to a hierarchical structure of nodes that the browser creates, with each node possessing distinctive properties. Let me make it a slideshow so that we yeah. So the document object model. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? How does it look?
Yeah.
All right.
I can see it.
Alright. So the document object model refers to a hierarchical structure of nodes that the browser creates, with each node possessing distinctive properties and methods that can be modified through JavaScript. The capacity to manipulate the DOM is among the most exceptional practical capabilities of JavaScript. So basically the DOM, right? If you think about your web page, for JavaScript to be able to access your web page, it does it through the DOM. Without the DOM, JavaScript won't be able to select elements on your web page and manipulate your web page. And it's a hierarchical structure. So what happens? What? So basically, is a kind of structure where there's something at the top, then there's another thing at the bottom, then at the bottom of that thing there's something else. It's the same way most organizations are structured. There is a CEO, then there are other there's a COO, there can be a CTO, and there are other directors in each department. Then there are team leads before you now get to the individual workers, right? So something like that. So to dive into the DOM, right? So what I was mentioning just now is this is basically it, right? So this is the DOM. It's a hierarchical structure. Are you guys getting that? Do you guys understand the hierarchical part where there's something at the top and there are other elements below? You guys get that?
Yes. Yeah, I got that.
Alright, so basically there's the document. There's the document. So these are the DOM tree looks like. There's the document, then there's a root element called the HTML element. Then we have on that element called the head element. So after under this HTML element, there's a head element. Then under head element, there's a title element. Then under that title element, we have a text inside that title element. So for the other side now, we also have under the root element, apart from the head element, there's also a body element. That body element might contain a href. It might contain an anchor element, right? It might contain an anchor element, and might also contain a h1 element, right? So the anchor element now can also have an attribute. Also has something called an attribute, right? So it has something called an attribute which is named href, right? Then under this element, also this a element is also called anchor element. It's used for links. So but just use a, it's called an anchor element. So under it also have texts, right? The text that will be shown for the link. Then under the h1 element, which is used for normal text, we have a text which is for normal text. After that h1 element, we have the normal text inside that h1 element called my header, right? It can be any text, but these are just samples, right? Everything here, the text here are samples. So let's see a practical okay. So everything here is what I've been explaining. So let me show you a practical example. Let me show you a practical example. Let me Let me stop sharing. Let me remove this thing from slideshow and show you a practical example of what I'm talking about. So I think a good example will be any website. Which website do you think we should look at that will show us this DOM structure? Any website come to mind? What popular website do you want us to look at? Any website can work. It can even be Google search safe, or Facebook, Twitter.
I think just this current page.
This current page, okay, that's fine. This is the current page. Okay. Let me remove this. This should not show. Okay, yeah. So let's compare it now. So what did we say we had earlier? So this is the DOM, right? This is the DOM tree, and we said first of all in the DOM tree we have the document, right? We have the document. So if you come here, okay. If you come here, what starts it actually is a HTML element, right? It's a HTML element, not document, right? So what happens is the DOM itself is a wrapper. It's like it wraps everything here, right? It wraps everything here. So basically, if you come here under this document element, we have the HTML element. So what happens is this document element is what JavaScript accesses. So immediately JavaScript accesses this document element, if you have access to every other element in here, it will have access to every other element in here. So so you can use JavaScript in the console. So if I just do, let's say I type document here. Sorry, let me type the complete document. Alright, so this is the document. Do you guys see this? Under document we have HTML. Are you guys seeing this? Under document we have HTML, which also established here that under this document head we have the root element called HTML, right? So this is the root element here, HTML. This is the root element here, HTML. So in JavaScript now, in order for you to access this HTML, you need to have access to the document object, which is what I just used here. So this is the console that allows you to use this console allows you to use JavaScript directly in your browser, right? So it's kind of a shortcut. But we'll be actually using VS Code to run our JavaScript. We're using VS Code. So this is the document element. Under it, we have the HTML element, which we have established, and under the HTML element, we have under the HTML element we have head element and we have body. So if I show you now, this is head, this is the head element, and this is the body element. So we already established that under the head element we have something called the other elements too, but the most basic one is called title. So this is the title element. This shows the title of the current tab. If you look at the title here, it says new tab, which is what we have here. New tab. So that's the title. So this is the HTML element. Under it we have the title element, and the title element has a text called new tab. So we also have the body element. Everything here is accessible to JavaScript, so through this document object. So this is the DOM. Basically this is the DOM. Everything here is DOM. So in this DOM now we also have the body, right? Like already established, we have the body element, and the body element can have many elements. Can have an anchor element, can have the H1 element, right? So under this body element now, we actually have something called an iframe. This is under element, right? There are many types of elements. So what we currently have there now is an iframe. Someone is requesting to join in. Okay. Did someone raise his hand, or Gershon, did you raise your hand, or what happened?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So someone raised his hand or requesting to join. Okay, no problem. So I guess it's only two of us here now, so we can try and make it interactive. Any question you have, just ask. So yeah, so we have the DOM. Basically. I'm coming. Yeah, so we have the DOM. So moving on. This what I explained here. What I've explained is basically what this talks about. It says here we have the document object. This is the core foundation of the DOM. To perform any form of DOM manipulation, you have to access the document object first, which is what we accessed here, right? Which is what we accessed here. So it's accessible to JavaScript, and if you want to use the DOM in JavaScript, you have to access it through the document element, so the document object. So that's basically it. Then on to the next slide. So how do we select DOM elements, right? So there are multiple ways of selecting DOM element. You can use get element by ID, you can use get element by class name, you can use get element by tag name. Then we can use query selector, we can use query selector all. So let's go through each of them. So in using get element by ID now, let me show you. So the get element by ID returns an element with the specified ID. So there's this sample here. Yes, I'm coming. So get element by ID returns an element, something with the specified element. So I can do it like this now. I can copy this. So if I come here, so I'm pasting this in my. Can you see my? Oh, hold on. Gashon, have you been seeing? Okay, you have been seeing my two tabs, have you? You have been seeing me move across two tabs.
Yes, I've been seeing.
Okay.
Them.
All right. So I want to reshare my screen. So I can show you the VS Code. So I will share my full screen now, so I can show you the VS Code. Alright. So that's my. Can you see my VS Code?
Yes.
Alright. So this is my VS Code. So this whatever I pasted here currently, it's just a sample. It's not like it's a real document or anything, but this is a sample, and I want to show you how you can use JavaScript to access each element. So this is an element with a specified ID, right? So in order to access it, like we earlier mentioned, I can use document.getElement by ID. Where is it? I can use document.getElement by ID method, right? So what I'll just do is I'll come to my. I've already linked this. I've already referenced this file here using the script tag. So I just come to my index.js. What I want to get is this element, and in this div element, its ID is called parent. So in order for me to access it, I'll just say document.getElement by ID parent, right? So that's the ID of the element. So what I'll say is just call it. Sorry, trying to. Alright, so I just go to the beginning and say const element equals the element. Then I'll just log it so we can see the element. So we can see the element in the browser. So I'll log it so I can see the element in the browser. Yeah. So this is what we currently have, and I selected the parent element. Yeah. So I logged it, right? So this is the element that I logged just now. Can you see that? So this is the element I logged. I selected it using JavaScript. And I logged it. So the element I just selected was this parent element right here. I selected it using JavaScript and I logged it. Right. So with JavaScript, I'll be able to access everything in this element. I'll be able to access all the child of this element, right, by using document.getElement by ID. Now there are other ones. Too. Did you get that? Hello, guys.
No, I didn't.
Okay, you didn't. So what part?
The network was just misbehaving. I didn't get.
Okay. So let me come in. What did you want to say?
All right. No, after you typed in document.getElement by ID.
Okay. So
I didn't get. So after that part, the network was bad.
Alright. So I accessed the element with document.getElement by ID. Alright. I accessed it with document.getElement by ID. So because the element has an ID called parent, I can access it. So I accessed it with that ID.
Yes.
Yeah. So I accessed it with that ID. Put the ID in here. And since I already have access to the element, I just logged it, so it will show up on my console. And this is the web page currently. This is currently the web page. And when I logged it, it showed up on my console right here. So this is the element I logged. Alright, so this is the
Yes,
full
yes.
element. So I now have access to everything in that element since I've already accessed it using the DOM. You get what I'm saying? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Alright. So let's move on to the other ones. So there are other ones too. There's get elements by class name, alright, which returns an array like object of all elements with the specified class name. You know the normal class name we use in CSS, right? So the normal class names we use in CSS, you can use them to access elements in the DOM. And there's get elements by tag name, which returns an array like object of all elements with the specified tag name, right? So that's on that one. Then there's query selector, which I usually use. It's very, I think most people actually use query selector and query selector all, right? So it returns the first element that matches a specified CSS selector. You know the way you select elements in CSS, right? You see these selectors, the way all these selectors, they are using specifying elements in CSS and applying styling to those elements. You can use them in the DOM too. So you just put so for example now, let's say one of the elements has, let's just give this a class name of class equals, let's say, alive. So that's the class. So
can you give an example with that?
Which of them?
All right.
Which one? Which of them?
The document.get element by class and tag name.
Okay, class and tag name.
Class name and tag name. Can you give an example?
All right, I'll do that. I'll do that. So let's complete this one for query selector. So with query selector, I can just come in here and say get element dot. So I've already given this one a class name of alive, right? This h4 element, I'm giving the class name of alive. So I can come to this index.css and start referencing it with dot alive, and I'll start applying styling to that element. Sure you get. But on that property but I can also use that property in the DOM, right? I can use it to access that element using the DOM. So I just come here and type document dot query selector. I'll use the exact way it is used in CSS, so it will be dot alive.
Okay, so we have to put the dot.
Yeah. You have to put the dots. You have to put the dots.
Okay.
Just to be sure. You have to put the dots. So document or query selector dot alive. You access it the same way you access it in CSS. She get what I'm saying? You access it the same way you access it in CSS. If it was an ID now, I will use, you know the way you access ID in CSS is with hash. I'll use hash.
Yes.
Sure you get. So but it's a class name, so I'll say dot alive. And if I come to my console, you see the h4 element here. This is the h4 element that we just selected.
Yes.
This is the h4 dot alive. This is what we just selected. So so that's it. So for examples with query selector, is basically the same thing, right? It's basically the same thing, only that you select, you know, with class names, you can select when you use a class name in CSS, you are basically selecting all the elements that have that class name. Sure you get. So with query selector now, you are actually selecting all the elements that have that particular CSS selector. So you know, with if it's a class name now, you select all the elements that have that class name. Sure you get. So that's the difference between query selector and query selector all. So for examples with get element by class name, so I will select the same alive right now. So I'll just say get elements by class name alive. The only difference now is that I'll remove this dot. Sure you get. I'll remove this dot. Did you get that? If it's query selector now, I'll have to put the dot because I'm accessing the same way with CSS. Well, since I'm just getting element by class name, I'll remove the dot. Now this get element, if you look at the name, it says get elements by class name, not get element. So we're actually going to get an array of all the elements that have this class name. Sure you get. So when I log, so this one is going to be elements now because it's actually an array. So when I log this, you will see that it's an array, but it's only going to be one element because we actually have only one element with the alive class name. So if I come to my document here, you will see it's a class. So this is basically this. So you see it's an array. This is basically HTML collection. Is actually called an. It's also an array, right? So this is it. So this, can you see this? Let me try and bring this up. Yeah. So this is the element we just selected. So this is the array we got from selecting that element.
No, I'm not. I didn't see the difference. So
You,
which one did you select?
let me do something. Or let's just do like this. Do you understand this part?
Yes.
You get this part? Okay. Let me reload.
Yes.
Let me cancel and reload this thing. Yeah. So can you see this? This is the element
Yes,
we
I
logged.
can.
This is what we logged. It's an array. You know how are you familiar with arrays in JavaScript?
No. No.
Okay. So an array is something like this. So an array is a data structure in JavaScript. Basically allows you to store data, right? Allows you to hold and it allows you to hold data. So this is an example of an array. So this is an example of an array. A, B, C. So this is an example of an array. So what we got here is an array, right? Because they have it's a form of an array, not actually an array, but it's a form of an array. If you look at it, it has this starting and ending square brackets. So it's an array. You get what I'm saying? Arrays, so if anywhere you see starting and ending square brackets in JavaScript, it's an array. So this is another example of an array. Alright, so what happened now is that when we did get elements by class name and we passed in a particular class name called alive, we are going to get all the elements with that class name. Now this array only has one element because it is only that element that has this class name. If I was to come into my index.html and give on that element with the alive, I now say okay, let this other element have the alive class name, and I come here. Can you see that? Hello, can you see this?
I saw what you did, but how is it affecting the HTML?
Okay.
File?
It's I'm
Did
using.
you change anything?
Yeah, I'm using live saver. There's a VS Code extension called live saver. So what happens with live saver is that anytime I change something in my HTML document into the file we reload, right? The web page will reload. You get what I'm saying? So if I change something here, this web page will reload. So normally you are supposed to reload it yourself, but with live server is reloading it for me automatically. Sure you get. So immediately you reloaded it, it ran this JS code that I had here, and it saw that multiple elements had the alive class name. Sure you get.
Yeah.
So
I get.
so this is also an array, right? This is also an array. So it's not like actually an array per se, but it's an abstraction of an array. Basically it abstracts an array for us. So this array now has two elements, right? It has two elements. So this is not necessary, but this array actually, you can see the number of elements it has here. It has two elements. Then it's also saying it has a first child property here. I don't know, I'm not familiar with why it's putting a first child property there, but this particular array has two elements currently. So you get what I'm saying? So these two elements,
Yes.
So the first one has an index 0, the second one has an index 1. So you get, and the length is 2. And the length is 2. So these two elements are the elements that have the alive class name in them. So you get
Class.
Yeah. So the class name is alive, and only these two elements that have it. So that is why when we did document.get elements by class name, it gave us those two elements in an array. So you get.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so our time is fast spent, and I want to go to other stuff. So you can check out this get element by tagging by yourself. You can try it out when you're on.
Uh,
Yeah, try it out when you're on.
yeah.
So how do we transverse the document? Like how do we move from, so what we're saying is how do we move from let's say we're in JavaScript now. How do we move from this second child to this first child, and from this first child to our life? We're supposed to be able to move across the Java the document, so we can manipulate everything. So we can say something like, instead of hello world, maybe at the 10th hour, or when someone clicks on this word, change this word to hello earth. You get what I'm saying? Things like that, right? So that's what we're about to talk about. So how do we select each of them? So in the HTML DOM, a node refers to an object in the DOM tree, which can be an element, an attribute, text, comment, document type declaration, or the document itself, right? So like we've earlier mentioned, each of these things here is called a node. You get, each of them are nodes. You get what I'm saying? Each of them are nodes, and every node in the DOM tree has properties.
Yeah.
So every node in the DOM tree has properties and methods that allow developers to access and manipulate them. For instance, developers can add, remove, or modify a node's attributes, change its content, like I was earlier mentioning. We can change this thing from, with JavaScript, you can change this hello world to hello earth. You get what I'm saying? Because of the property of this, because of the properties this node has. This and after I access it using the DOM, it will give me some properties which I can now use in changing those properties it will give me. I can use them in changing the properties of that same element. So you get what I'm saying? So it's like saying, when I call hello world, it will give me it tell me that the text current, when I get the hello world element using the DOM, it is not telling me that the text property is actually hello world. I now decide that I want to change this text property to hello earth. So you get what I'm saying? So that's what the DOM, those are the powers the DOM give me through JavaScript. So that was it was mentioning here. Then the DOM tree represents the structure of an HTML document, with the document node at the top, like we have earlier mentioned, and other nodes descending from it. Each node has a specific relationship with other nodes in the tree, and they can be accessed using various DOM transversal methods. Sure you get. So what they are trying to say now is, this first child, are you hearing me? Hello?
Yes.
This first child element here, also has other elements that are relating to it. So with this first child element, I can say who is the brother of first child, it might be this, or who is the father, it might be this. Are you getting what I'm saying? So this first child element now has siblings and has parents. So that's how we actually access elements in the DOM. So this is the parent element. It's not because of the ID that I'm calling it parent. I'm just that's what it is basically. It's not because of the ID. This ID can be any other name, but this is a parent element, and it has children, and its children are this div P element, H4 element, and this H1 element, including this P element. So this is the parent element, and it has children. Now each of these elements, just think of the way a family works. Like you have a brother and he's your sibling, right? And you also have parents. So this one is the parent of these elements, right? And each of these elements are siblings to each other. So you get, this first child is a sibling to the second child, and it's also a sibling to the many elements under this parent element called the div element. Do you get that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
I got it.
so that's basically it. And this element here now, since its parent is this div element, it means that its grandparent. So which of these elements? What? So its grandparent will be what? Will be which element here? This is the parent element. Which one will be its grandparent? The parent element of the div properties. The parent element of this element is this other element that has an ID of parent. So the grandparent of this div element now will be the parent of this other
That would be
element. That will be body, right? Yeah, that's it. That's it, right? So it's the same. It's the same structure as a family, right? So they are. So we can say they are family members, right? So yeah. So that's it. So that's how we transverse the document. So like I was mentioning now. So in this section, we'll learn how to like obtain the parent element, siblings, children of an element in the HTML DOM. To accomplish this, we use the following node properties. Like we earlier mentioned, we have the parent node, children nodes, right? First element, we have last element, we have next element sibling. So we have first element child, last element child, we have next element sibling, we have previous element sibling. Are you getting what I'm saying? So if we look at this DOM, if we look at this DOM element now, this is the parent element, like we earlier mentioned. This is that element is called the parent node, right? It's the parent node. Then each of them, all the elements under it are called children nodes. So you get, they are called children nodes. Then the first element under this parent element is called the first element child. So you get what I'm saying? Do you get that?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So the first element under this parent element is the first element child. Then the other one now is the last element child, right? The last element child is the last element under here, which is this P element, right? This parent now, the last element child is this P element, which is the last child it has, right? Then we also have next element sibling. We have next element sibling. So the next element sibling now, let's say this is actually a child of the parent element. So the next element sibling now, right? So it means the next element to that element, which is sibling. So which is basically the second child, right? It's a sibling is the next element after it. So you get what I'm saying? Do you get that?
Yes.
Yeah, right. So that's the next element sibling.
Yes.
Then previous element sibling now would be like this second child, the previous element sibling, right? To it to be the first child. You get what I'm saying? Previous element sibling to this second child will be the first child because it's the previous element to it.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah. So in order for us to make it easy, in order for us to make it fast, I want to use this console here. In order for us to make it faster, I want to use the console here. Yes. Okay. There are samples here. Let me use the console so that I'll make it fast. So I want to select the parent node now. In order for me to select, I'll use this parent node to select the other children node. In order for me to select the parent node, like earlier established, I'll just say const parent equals. I want to make it faster for us to grasp what we're writing here. We can also write it here, right? But I want to make it easier to understand. So we're actually using this parent element here, right? So if in this parent element, to get this parent element, like already established, how do I get it? Which one do you want me to use? You get it by ID, class name, or what?
Is it the parent?
Yeah.
Okay,
parent.
by ID.
Okay. What ID?
Parent.
Alright. So that's it. So that's basically it. So I've gotten the parent element now. If I log parents, that's what we have. That's the parent element, and we have access to it. Now we have already established that we have children, so I can access the children of this parent element. So in order for me to access the children, I'll just say parents. So I can say children equals parents dot. I can say like we already established. I can what's the first one here? The first one. Okay, this one says children nodes. So I can say parent dot. So this stuff here also gives me access to suggestions. So in here now I see this one says child nodes. I can just say child nodes, and these are actually the children. right? I can call them child nodes. In here it was called children nodes, right? It must have been a typo, but it's child node. So parent.child nodes, and if I now type console log children, so these are the child. This is a list of each of the children. Should you get what I'm saying? So the first one here now, the first one here is a div element, and I think it will be better let's use these children. Is turning a different type of array. Let's use oh, I should have used let here. Anyway, let's use let's use parent dot children. Let's use parent dot children. It will return a different stuff for us. So if I log it, so this one is more understandable. Yeah. So if I log it, it returns a collection of all the children of the parent. She get what I'm saying? Parent dot children returns a collection of all the children of the parent. So these are all the children of that parent. How many are they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? How many children are here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are 5 children there. And if you count this HTML, this array says there are 5, right? This shows that there are 5 children. And the length of this also shows that there are 5 children. So this is the first child. This is the first child here. If you notice, when I'm accessing it, it also shows up here. So this is the first child. As you can see by the left, it's pointing to the first child. This is the second child. This is the third child, fourth child, and fifth child. Did you get that? So they are all the children of the parent element. When I say parent of children, it accesses all of them. Did you get that? Hello?
Yes. What's the difference between the first one?
Yeah. The first
and the second one.
The first one returns a node list for us, basically, right? It returns a node list. So it does not like it. The difference mainly is that you see these text properties here, right? You see these text properties here. It's assuming that It's assuming that there is. So the basic explanation basically is that it's assuming that there is another child here, right, which is a text. Sure, you get. It's trying to say that in between each of these children, there's another child called a text. But that's not what we actually want. Sure, you get. If you look at this one now, there's a text here. After the first child, there's another text. After the second child, there's a text. After the fourth child, there's a text. After the after the third child, there's a text. Fourth text, fifth text. So what it thinks is that it's thinking that between each of these children, there's a text. There's a text there basically. So when I mean text, I mean like simple text, not something with an element now. So I mean simple text, something like it's just like saying I'm not writing any element, but I'll just come here and write something like Gashon without putting a tag on it, or without putting inside the p tag or a span tag. I'll just write Gashon there. So you get what I'm saying? So this node list now is assuming that there's a text. It basically says that there's a text in between each of these children, but that is not what we want. What we know is that what we ourselves know is that there is actually this parent element actually has only 5 children, and for us to access it, the best way to access it will be using parent.children. These child nodes, it's rarely used. Basically, it's rarely used. But what you are always going to use is parent.children. You get what I'm saying? So that child node is used. So basically, like already I mentioned, the text, the child knows assumes that there's a text between each of them, because empty text is still, you can still consider it's considering empty text as a form of text. So you get like empty text without anything, it's considering it as a form of text. So that was the issue with the child nodes. That's why I'm using children. So that's it about the children. Now to access the first element, I can now say with parent, I want to get the first element of parent. So I can say first child. So what's parents first child? What's parents first child here? Is this div element, right? Hello.
Yes, I'm with you.
All right. So that's the first child of parent element. So what I can do is I can write first element. I can use first element child, like we specified here. First element child, right? So this will give me the first child of parent. So this is so if I do first element child, I can now write console. I can log it in my console. First child. Sorry. Right, so this is it basically. So this is the first child. What can you see that? So this is the first child that we got.
Yes, yes.
And that's the first child of parent element. I can get the last child too. Just say const last child is equals to parent dot last child, last element child. Sorry, last element child. So just so I'll log it. Sorry, I'm trying to make the login easier for me. So I'll just log it right here. I'll log the last child. Can you see this? Can you see this? It might look too small.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the last child basically. The last child. So I've selected the last child. Yeah, this is better. So that's it basically. So moving on. Now for us to select the next element now, we can use next element sibling, right, to select the next element. So we have the first child. What was the next element sibling of the first child? It's second child, right? It's second child. Next element sibling of first child is second child. So I can say first child. No, I've already selected first child before. This is first child. I selected it here. So I'm referencing it again. First child dot next element sibling. I should get second child, right? I should get this second child here. So when I press enter, I basically get this second child here. You get what I'm saying? In order for us to follow what we have been doing before, I'll just say second child is equals to first element or next element sibling. So then I'll log second child. So that is my second child. Did you get it? Hello? Yeah. So that is my second child. That's my second child. And so for this second child now, I want to get the previous element sibling for the second child. What would that be? For second child, for this second child? This second child here, what was the previous element sibling?
That would be first child now.
Yeah, that's
the previous
first child.
element is the first.
It's first child basically. So I can say, I'll just type it here, second child dot previous element sibling is basically first child. She saw that.
Element.
Yeah.
Sibling.
Yeah, previous element sibling. It's basically first child, right? So you can use family structure to just transverse the DOM and access different elements. So all the elements are related to each other. Then you can start selecting them based on that, right? So I can say something like hello world. Immediately hello world is clicked. Immediately someone clicks on hello world, select the element before hello world and change it to from I am alive to I am dead, stuff like that. You get what I'm saying? So JavaScript gives us those kind of powers. So yeah, so that's basically all about transversing the document. So now we are now going to how to manipulate the DOM. So how do we manipulate it? Here we are going to look at how to create elements, how to set the inner HTML text content of an element, how to append an element, how to insert one element before another, how to replace a child element, and how to remove a child element. You get this? So let's dive in. So this is what we currently have, right? This is what we currently have. Now to create an element, to create an element, sorry, okay, yeah, we go through everything. Remove, append, inner, set inner. Now to create an element, what you do basically in JavaScript is to write document dot create element div. That's basically it. Did you get me?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's basically it. I can create any element I want. I can create an element with Gashon tags if you get. I can create an element with Gashon tag. So let me clear this. I want to show you something in the console. So back to our VS Code. I can now say document dot create element Gashon. First, let me do div. Let's just do div. Document dot create element div. Right. I'll log this div in my console too. So if I come here, I created a div, right? And this is it. This is the div I created. Are you getting me? I logged it, so this is the div I created. Do you get that? This is the div I created because I also logged it. This is why we can see it in the console because I logged it. So that's the div we created. You can create an element simply with div. We created a div, so let's create an anchor element now. You will see. So this is an anchor element. I created an anchor element too. So I can now say that okay, I want to also create okay, let me create a h1 element. So this is the h1 element I created. You get what I'm saying, right? So you can create elements using JavaScript, right? When you create them, they are still in JavaScript. They've not been added to the DOM yet. You can see I just created it. I just used the DOM to create it. It's not like I added it to the DOM or anything. You get what I'm saying, right? So I didn't add it to the DOM or anything. Now, I can also create an element called.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Did you get what I'm saying?
Alright, my network was
okay.
was breaking.
Where did you hear
I
me?
didn't get that last part.
Okay, so I was saying I can create
The
elements.
div after you created the div.
Okay, after I created the div, let me clear this. After I created the div, I created an A element. So this is sorry, an anchor element. I created an anchor element just to show you, and I logged it that this is an anchor element, and I also created a h1 element. Right, so this is the h1 element I just created. Sure, you get me, right? So immediately I put them in the DOM will understand that it's an h1 element or is an anchor element. Now, after creating all these elements, I can also create an element called Gashon. So this is the element called Gashon that I just created. Do you get me? Can you see this? This is the element called Gashon that I just created. It's supposed to show up as I don't know why it's not showing up as a normal. It's supposed to show up as normal. It's supposed to show up the same way these ones show up. I want it to show up, okay, but it's showing up like okay. I think that's because it's not a valid element. You get what I'm saying? It's not a valid kind of element. That's why it's showing up like this. So if I decide that I want to create another element called, I can even create an element called body safe. Shall you see? Did you see that? So because it's not a valid element, that's why it showed up like this. Can you hear me, Gashon? Hello, Gashon.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, I'm with you.
Alright.
Can you?
Alright, so that's basically it about creating elements. Now let's move on from creating elements to setting the inner HTML of elements. Right. So when I create setting the inner HTML property, we are going to add a text. So it means that after I create an element, I can now change the text. Here they created a div element here. So in the next slide, we're now going to add text to that div element. Normally with HTML, what will happen is that you will come to your HTML stuff, then you come here, create your element, then write your text. Something like I am learning about the DOM. Right? That's what you do normally. but you can achieve all this with JavaScript, right? And we're going to do it. Everything that I just did here, we're going to achieve it with JavaScript. So I can remove this for now, come to my JavaScript. So I'm going to create a div element, right? Let me write this here so I'll remember. This is what I want to achieve. I'm going to create a div element. So since I've created my div element, let me remove this log. After creating my div element, the DOM also gives us properties. After these properties allows us to manipulate these elements. So I can now say that okay, elements that I just created dot inner HTML. This allows me to change the text inside that div. So I'll just set it to I am learning about the DOM. Get me right? So I'll set this element to I am learning about the DOM. So in order to show us this element, I'll just log it in my console. Did you get me? I'll log it in my console. So if I come here, if I come here now, this is the div element I created. Let me cancel everything here and just load. So this is the div element I created, right? Let's look at the text that is inside this div element. So these are all the properties that the DOM gives us. There are multiple properties we can use in accessing, like we can use in changing. So changing these properties will allow us to manipulate this element. So if I come down, I should be able to see the so this is it. Remember that I set inner HTML property here. So I am learning about the DOM. So right here now, the inner HTML is I am learning about the DOM. Did you get that?
Yes.
Yeah, so the inner HTML here is I am learning about the DOM, right? So just hold on. Let me see. I'm coming. Let me see. Let me confirm if people are joining on. Okay. Alright. So the first element here is the inner HTML is I am learning about the DOM. Now let's move on. Let's go on to appending an element to the DOM. So now we want to append that element that we just created to the DOM. Sure you get. What we want to do now is we want to append it to this parent element. We'll append it to this parent element right here. Sure you get. We'll append it to the parent element right here. So to append to the parent element, what do you think we can do? How do you think we can add it to this parent element? Just say anything you've on your mind. You might not know it, but just say anything on your mind. So what are the steps? What do we have to first do? First of all, we have to get this parent element. After we get the parent element, there's a particular property we can use that the DOM has given us to manipulate the parent element and add that div element that we just created. So even if you can tell me the first step, it's fine. So what do you think we should do? Can you hear me, Gashon? Hello, Gashon.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
So what's up? What do you think we can do? How do you think we can add the div element we just created to this parent element?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. I said this is the parent element. We want to add the div element you just created. Hello, can you hear me? I can hear you. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, Gashon. Hello.
My network. Sorry.
Oh, your network is.
I can hear you now.
All right. Yeah. So
my network is just bad.
All right. Sorry about that. So as I was saying, this parent element, we want to add this div element that we just created, right? This div element that we just created, we want to add it to this parent element. So what do you think the first step would be? Any idea? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello, Gashan.
I'm with you.
Alright, so I was saying, so see your network.
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah, alright. See your network is acting up. Let's just go ahead. So I was saying we want to add the div element to this parent element. In order for us to do that, we first have to get this parent element.
Yeah.
Then we'll append. So it's called appending. Then we'll append that div element to this parent element. So after we have appended it, it will appear as the sixth child of this parent element. Right? To appear as the sixth child of this parent element. So let's get down to work. First thing first, we've already created the element. So what we'll do now is we'll get the parent element. So I'll just say const parent is equals to document. Sorry, that was the wrong document. Document dot get element by ID parent. So this is the parent element. Sorry, this is the parent element basically, right? So what we can now do is that we can now say parent dot append. Parent dot append. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I don't know why it's not. Yeah, it's correct. Okay, so parent dot append child. Parent dot append child elements. Right. So this is how we are going to appear. This will now make it appear as the sixth child of the parent element. So I've been giving this append child property. Alright, so I'll be giving this append child property to be able to manipulate any element in this parent. So we're able to manipulate this parent to add child elements. So we're going to add this child element called we're going to add this child div element to the parent element. So if I come to the DOM now, we should see, oh, there's an error there. I'm coming. So can you see it now? Can you see this? I'm learning about the DOM.
Yes, I can see it.
Right, so we've added the child element. We've added the child element to this parent. So now it has 6 children. So this is the div that we just created. So that's the power JavaScript gives us. Normally you will type it out, but JavaScript has given us the power to be able to create it dynamically, right? So when anything happens on the browser, we can decide that okay, we'll create an element, add it to the web page. So that's the power JavaScript gives us, right? So I'm trying to bring this down. Oh yeah, it's fine. Okay, it's good like this. All right, so that's basically it. If I come to the parent element now, I will see this is the div we just created. Right, this is the div we just created, and we've added it. Now let's move on to removing a child element. So now I want to remove the first child. What we want to do now is that we're going to remove the first child of that element that we're using, right? And to do that, we'll be using the remove child property on the parent element. So the remove child property is the property we'll be using, right? So in order for me to remove it, I'll show you how I'm going to do it. So first thing first, let me remove this. Let me remove all this. Alright. So what I want to do is I want to remove the first child. So first of all, I'll access that first child. I'll say const first child is equals to parent dot first, what was it again? First element. What was it again? I've forgotten the exact property that we used. Can you remember the exact property that we used to get the first child from parent? Hello, Gasha? Gasha, can you hear me?
I'm with you.
Alright, so
Yes,
I was asking,
yes, I can hear
do you remember
you.
the first property that we used to get the parent element? Sorry, do you remember the property that we used to get the first child of the parent? I want to get the first child of the parent now. Do you remember the property that we used to get the first child of the parent? Hello, Gashu. Hello, Gashu.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Do you remember the first property that we used? Do you remember the property that we used to get the first child from the parent? It was first. It started with first element.
First element and child now,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That
Because
was it. That was it. So that's what we used. So now I've gotten the first child. I want to remove it from the parent. In order to remove it, I told you we're going to use remove child, right? This is the property we're going to use, remove child. So I'll come here and just say first. Sorry, I'll say parent dot remove child first child. Sure you get. So it will remove the first child for me. So when I come to my DOM, the first child is gone. Sure you get, it's gone now. Do you see that? So there are only 4 children here now. The first child is gone because of what we used here. Alright, so that was it. So that's it about removing children. You can use remove child to remove children nodes in the web browser. So to remove children nodes. Now the next thing we're going to talk about is event handling. Right, event handling. Do you have an idea of what an event is? I'm not talking about O1 or any other. I'm talking about in terms of the browser.
Event should just be like something that
something that occurs, right?
It should be something like an occurrence.
Right? Yeah, exactly. That's really that's it basically, right? An event is something that occurs, right? It's basically it. So so when we're talking of events in terms of HTML in terms of the DOM now, it's basically anything that happens to any of the elements, right? So if I'm here now and I'm moving my mouse around, it's an event. It's something happening. It's something occurring, right? So moving my mouse around is an event. Selecting it is an event. It's something that is happening, and since it's happening to the HTML DOM, it can be called an HTML event. So selecting this is something that is happening. If there was a text input here like now, like the assignment you gave you earlier, like you did, there's a text input here now, and I typed, that would be like a typing event. It's an event that is happening. This is a highlighting event. This is basically a mouse move event. The way my mouse is moving, it's a mouse moving event, right? If there was a scroll here, hello, Gashon. Hello, Gashon. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Since you dropped off for some time, where did
Yeah.
Alright, I think you were to listen to the recording. So let me just go on. So basically, anything that happens on the browser, anything that happens on the web page is an event. So what the Power JavaScript gives us now? Oh, it's me. So I think the wind is about to fall here. So my network is acting up. Gosh, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear
the wind is about to fall here.
Yes,
yeah, the wind is about to fall here. My network. It's my network that is acting up now.
Getting worse and
no problem. No, it's fine. I'm recording it, so I think we'll be good. Even if you can't hear me for some time, I'm already at the ending, right? So you just go on YouTube and listen to the mini recording. Yeah. So just bear with me. So the next thing now is actually events. So as I was mentioning, I've already mentioned the types of events that can happen. So what the Power JavaScript gives us is that when an event happens, we can do something, right? So anything that happens is an event. We can have listeners, right? Things called listeners, which are basically JavaScript functions, right? Sorry, not listeners now. Sorry, So those ones are handlers. What we can have is that we can register. We can have something called a handler, right? We can have something called a handler, right? That is going to run anytime an event happens, right? So what happens is JavaScript allows us to know when an event occurs, and we can now run that function, which is called a handler, anytime an event occurs. So something like anytime hello world is clicked or highlighted, I can now decide that anytime hello world is highlighted, console.log whatever is highlighted. So if I highlight hello world, log. If I highlight hello world, log hello world. If I highlight any other thing, log it. Or if I click on anything, log whatever I clicked. Something as simple as that. So that logging is being done by a handler. So what happens is we have to register that handler to that event. So at any time that event occurs, that handler will run. Right? So that it's as simple as that. Gasho, can you hear me? Just in case, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So, yeah, that's nice. So anytime an event occurs, JavaScript gives us the power to do something, which is, and that thing that is going to be done is going to be done by a handler. So diving in, what are HTML events? HTML events are things that happen to HTML elements, like the click of a button, input in a text area, and so on. When an event occurs like the ones above, you can write JavaScript code which we call an event handler that will be executed, which I already mentioned. They'll be executed anytime an event occurs. Now these event handlers are JavaScript functions. So when an event occurs on an element, the handler function is executed, right? So that's basically it. Anytime an event occurs, the handler function is executed. But so that's it, right? But in order for that handler function to run, I already mentioned that we have to register that handler function, right? So that's where event listeners come in. Now, event listeners. So event listeners help us to be able to listen for those events, right? They will listen for when an event occurs, and they will run our handler, right? So event listeners allow us, like I already mentioned, event listeners allow us to be able to listen to events, and when the event occurs, they run our registered handler. Yeah, I have to add a registered clause there. But you can create a handler and you don't register it, it won't run. You have to register it. So let's do something really, really simple. Something as simple as a click, right? Something as simple as a click. Let's do something as simple as a click. Let me put a button on this HTML elements. A simple button. So I'll call it click. The text will click me. Then so what will happen is that I want to create a handler now. So I want to create a handler. So a simple handler can be click handler. So this is a simple handler. Like I already mentioned, it's a JavaScript function. So what I want to do is I want to just log I am clicked. So that's basically it. But this is a handler. Like I already mentioned, it's a handler, but anytime, let's go back here, but I'm clicking on this, right, and nothing is happening. Right, I'm clicking on it and nothing is happening. Gasho, can you hear me?
Yes.
Alright, so I'm clicking on this and nothing is happening. So what do you think is the issue? Why is I created the handler? I've created the handler, it's right here, but I'm clicking on this button and nothing is happening. What do you think is the issue?
I think there's no event listener.
Yes, yeah. I've not put up an event listener that will run this handler anytime this button is clicked. So I have to set up an event listener that will run this handler anytime the button is clicked. So in order to do that, I have to get the button first. So I'll just say button equals document, like I already mentioned, document.get. So how do I get that button? How do you think I can get that button? This is the button. How do you think I can get it? If you have no idea, just say no idea. It relates to the last stuff I told you about.
I don't have an idea.
All right. So it relates to that last stuff I told you about when we talked about document.get element by tagging. Sure you get. So that's what it relates to. So right now I'm going to do document or get element by button, by tag name, and the tag name is button. So just watch.
Okay.
Yeah, so the tag name is button. So just get element by tag name, and tag name is basically button, right? So I'll get elements. So this is get elements by tag name. It's going to return an array, right? It's actually going to return an array. But what I want is that single button. I want just that button. So let me log this for you now, just to show you the array. I actually want just that button, but let's see. So this is an array. It's the form of an array, and this is the button element inside. You can see it. It's highlighting this. It's highlighting the button element anytime I hover over this. So this is the button element. So I can't access. So basically, what I have here is an array of buttons. What I actually want is a single button. Sure you get. I want a single button. So for arrays, you can accessing each element in an array is called indexing. This is an aside. It's not related to what we're doing right now. We're going to handle that later on. So for me to access the button element I want, I'll index it using 0, right? I'll index it using 0. So this whole concept I'm touching now is not related to what we're currently doing, right? So in order for us to make it straightforward, I'll just decide. I can just come here and say, okay, let's use an ID of let's not use button. Let's use an ID of what ID do you think we should give this button?
Submit.
Okay.
Submit button or something.
Okay. Let's use submit button. ID or submit button. So I'll just come to.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm using an ID or submit button now.
Hello.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? I can hear you.
Maybe like submit.
Yeah, I heard you. Submit button.
Alright.
Yeah. So I'll just do document or get element by ID. Sorry. Get element by ID. So it will get element, not get elements. Get element by ID. Submit button. So we're going to have our button here. So we have our button now. Now, after having our button, we have to set up an event listener, right? We have to set up an event listener. Now that event listener is always going to run our event anytime a click event happens, right? So that means we have to set up an event listener for the click event. So what was it? So the way to do it is to just say button.add event listener click. Button.add event listener click, right? So this is it. But we have to link this handler with our event listener. So in order to link it, to pass it as a second argument. So click handler, pass it in here. So button.add event listener click handler. So this just means that so there are different type of events. There's the click event, there's mouse move event, mouse. I think it's mouse move event. Then there's also, I think there's an event for scroll, but the one you mostly use is click. The event you are mostly going to use is click, because you're mostly going to be handling click in terms of user activity. And you can also have new key down event. Down is for when someone types, when someone types, right? When someone types, that one is key down. But for now, we're just using the click event. So click, and we're going to give it a handler of click handler. So this means that anytime I click on this button, I'm going to I am click is going to be logged in the console. Did you get what's happening here, or do you have any questions?
No, not yet.
No questions.
I thought no.
Okay, all right, fine. So let's get down to business. So let's click on this button and see what happens. All right. Did you see that I am clicked is logged? Did you see it? It logged I am clicked.
Yes.
Yeah, it logged I am clicked. and clicked. So that's basically it. That's it about event handlers. That is it about event handlers. We can go deeper and decide that anytime this is clicked, change this to hello Earth. Get what I'm saying? Anytime this is clicked, change this to hello Earth. So what happens is, what's going to happen is I'm going to just select this element. Then anytime this stuff is clicked, I'm just going to say change the inner HTML property to hello Earth, no longer hello world. It's as simple as that. So you get so that's basically it. So that's basically it. So which brings us to the end of today's lesson. So these are all the resources. Alright, these are all the resources. The easiest I will advise right now, as you are living here, you can start with this resource right here. I sent it in the chat. Just click on it. It tells you like, it gives you the basis of how the DOM works, right? So you beginner's guide, the guide on how the DOM works. So if I come here now, just hold on. We are going to see. So this is a really good learning resource. You can just get started with. You know how to get familiar with the DOM. I don't know why it's not loading. Can you hear me, Gashon?
Yes, I can.
I don't know why this stuff is not loading. But anyway, that's the link to the resource, right? So I'm going to share. I've already shared the link to this slide. I've shared the link to this slide in the chat, in the group chat, so you can access it there. So I think this is opening now. Yeah.
Alright.
So this is a beginner's guide on how to manipulate the DOM. So this is where basically most of our most of our stuff was gotten from. Most of our lessons for today. This is where we got them from. So if you read this article, it's quite long, but when you are reading, make sure you grasp every single part of it. Don't just read some and leave some. Grasp every single part of it. Even if there's something that the guy is mentioning and you feel it might not be important, just learn it too. Because at the end of the day, you are most probably going to still going to come across whatever he's mentioning. So you get what I'm saying? So thanks for attending today. Really appreciate it. So I'll stop presenting now. So really appreciate you coming today. Do you have any question? Are you fine with everything?
Well,
no question.
I'll just check out the material you dropped.
Okay.
And if any question arise, I will definitely get to go.
Okay. That's nice. No problem. I'm going to add the link to the slides in the YouTube description. So anybody that is listening on YouTube, you can check below for a link to the slides. So thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. So I hope to see you next week. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Don't mind the bad network.
Yeah, sure.
I really appreciate the time.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah. So we'll see next week. Thanks, man. Later.
All right.